Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U podcast, the Miami Herald's Miami Hurricanes podcast. I'm David Wilson and I'm joined as always on the other line by Susan Miller-Degnan, our Hurricanes beat writer here at the Herald. Susan, what's going on?
Let's see, 7 practices down,
Time
and
flies, doesn't it?
yeah, it does. It does fly, and a few more before the first game.
Yeah, sneaking
But
up. We are now what? By the time people listen to this, it'll
wow,
be exactly 3 weeks away, right? 4 weeks away. No, 3 weeks away.
oh
It'll
my
be three
God,
weeks away. It'll be 3 weeks
Friday,
away by the day people listen to it because it's a Friday
Friday
game, the
night.
opener. So,
Yeah,
um, and a couple hours after we record or this posts, I'm sure some Miami fan, maybe you'll be listening to this on your way to Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday, because Miami's doing an open scrimmage for the first time.
in a
Definitely the first time that I've been around the team.
many years,
You can't remember the last time they did it.
many
Um,
years. I mean, yeah, many years.
and I gotta say, like, I don't think we're gonna learn very much from the scrimmage, right? They're gonna keep it very vanilla, right? Like, even if this was behind closed doors, it's the first scrimmage. They're just like, it's mostly about process stuff, right? Like getting the plays in, getting everyone some work, sideline operations, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think it's a really good
Yeah,
idea
and I love it.
considering it's been a rocky last 12 months for Miami, save for the recruiting class last year. Um, I think Mario still has mostly goodwill, but it doesn't hurt to like get, the team, as he said, or I don't know if it was you who asked him, but someone asked him today about just they didn't play well at home last year. I think just kind of building that connection with the fan base in a way that um, you don't see very often. You definitely don't see very often in Miami. You don't see just often around college football at all. I think it's a really good
In the
idea.
fall. You mean
Yeah, right in
yeah,
the
you
fall.
really
Yeah,
you don't see open scrimmages in the fall. So I mean they're not gonna Mario even told me, he said they're just there's nothing that opponents can glean from it. Um
hmm
and I'm sure it'll be simple, but I love what you said. It's true. They're going to be on their home field. He wants them to really, take ownership
yeah,
of the home field. They had 7 losses last year, David, and 5 of them were at home. I mean, that's amazing. Five.
yeah. They actually played okay on the road. Some like
I
their
know.
best performances were what Georgia Tech,
Texas A&M at
Texas
first.
A&M. Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah. But 5 losses, like to play to teams like Middle Tennessee, and
yeah.
I mean, just inexcusable. And um, yeah, I like what you said about all the coaches are new, or a lot of coaches are
hmm
new.
A lot of
So many,
players are new.
so many new players,
Yeah.
right? So it gets them a little, accustomed to it, and there will be some fans there. Although it's the way it's been so hot,
It has
it,
been really, really hot.
it's going to be really difficult to sit through that.
Yeah, that's a good thing they're doing it so early in the morning. At noon, like, there's not going to be a ton of people there, right? Like, it'll be like a spring game turnout, probably not even. Um, if it was at noon, like on a Saturday in Miami, it was going to be hard to get people to come out. I think at 9 a.m., it's early, so there'll be some people who don't show up just because that's early on a weekend in Miami where I always joke that the best time to drive around South Florida is Saturday before like 11 a.m. There's never any cars on the road. We're a slow
True.
starting town here. But
That's why we love practice. That's
it's
why we
gonna
love weekend practice.
it's going to be tolerable at least to sit out there, or at least relatively tolerable. And yeah, the only other time I can remember anyone doing anything like this was I looked it up. We were talking earlier. Manny Diaz's first practice of fall, his first year in 2019, he opened the first practice to
Yes.
fans and reporters, obviously too.
Yeah.
Um, similar idea, right? His idea there. Um, I mean, you even wrote the story, I think, that year that he was like the fans coach in some ways, right? I mean, I remember him going
Oh,
out to the
okay.
tailgates, right? Was it the Florida game where he was like going out to the tailgates and
Yeah.
he made a really concerted effort to try to endear himself to the fans. Mario Cristobal I mean, he's done it, and something. He's such a South Florida guy, and like I think people see his work ethic, and that endears him to the fans. But he's very private, and like we kind of complain about it sometimes how little practice we get to see. I mean, most people listening to this don't care about that kind of stuff, but like it is nice to like kind of know that you know college coaches are way too secretive. Like they don't need to be as secretive as they are. It's I think it's a good thing to let people get a glimpse of. I'd love for them to do this every year. Like I don't think it hurts any. I don't think it hurts you. I mean, you went 5-7 last year, being as secretive as could be, um, and I think it's important to like have the fans feel involved instead of just being like, for 5 days a week. It feels like I'm sure for some fans, it feels like they have no like. If you follow the Dolphins, you can read every day and feel like what's going on with the team. Not feel like you're, to an extent, feel like you're a part of the team. Feel like you're within the story of the team. With Miami and it's not just Miami, it's college teams around the country. Like for 5-6 days a week, like you don't hear
Nothing.
anything, and then the
Well, it's
game.
not nothing. Pretty
Yeah,
much
but
stretching and a little,
yeah,
but nothing. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not the same. And I think I do remember the Manny Diaz.
yeah.
Uh,
I don't
I
think I was
I
there that day, but I remember it happening
but that was at Green
at
Tree.
Green Tree. Yes.
It was at Green Tree. I do remember that, and that was actually, I think, if I have the right one, part of Canes Fest, also.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Oh, and then they went inside the Schwartz Center. It would have been no. Did they have the indoor?
Yeah,
Maybe
the indoor
maybe,
was around. I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
that
The
might have
indoor
been
was
right when the
that
indoor
was
opened.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was right, right, right. And he talked to Ted. I remember that. Um, yeah. JD the Garbage Man was there, but the best Miami fan. I love JD the Garbage Man.
Uh,
So upbeat and positive. JD, if you're listening, keep thumbs up. No, really, he's such a
yeah.
great, and I love his inspirational Sunday talks on Twitter. Anyway, yes, it's a great idea. We'll get to see a little. We're not able to talk to players afterwards. We've
Hmm.
been told we're not going to be able to talk to Mario afterwards. So, but at least we'll see stuff, and fans, are going to be able to do it too. So yes, in every way, I think it's great. And the next one will be the serious one. Well, this one will be serious too, but the next one's going to be the one that I think they decide the depth chart off. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's the first
I
scrimmage of the spring. And I
of the
mean, there's
fall.
like you said, or sorry, of the fall. There's
Yeah.
just so many new guys. Like if you're a Miami fan, a bunch of guys you saw in the spring, right? Some like Devontae Brown, a couple of Javion Cohen, Francisco Mauigoa, like some guys who are going to be important parts of this team. You got a little taste of in the spring, but like Jaden Davis, who looks like he's going to start in the secondary, is new. Um, you've got a couple of the freshmen, right? Damari Brown, who showed up. That's the position. I've talked about that position group a lot. The cornerbacks, they're just the biggest mystery to me. I don't think it's worth saying like, what are we looking for in the scrimmage on Saturday? Because as we've said, like we're not going to really learn anything. It's going to be very controlled. Um,
Right.
but
And
those are the new guys. Those are the new guys. Those are the guys who are get a chance. I mean, it's their first chance to make a first impression to the fan base.
yeah. Mario even said, and the players today said they were in full pads today,
Mm-hmm.
but they they're thudding. So they're
Right.
hitting hard. And they said even without full pads, um, with most of their pads, they're hitting each other hard and thudding, but they don't, I should say, even with full pads, they don't want them to be on the ground,
Yeah.
although they do. They thought, and some of them end up on the ground, but they don't go full tackle. They will in the
Mm-hmm.
scrimmage, but I think they're going to be really. I don't know. I don't know. You can't really hold back. They have to. They have to get some tackling in.
Yeah, they
So
won't tackle
that's
the
good.
quarterbacks, right? And no one's going to be
Oh
going.
yeah.
No
Oh
one's
my
going to be.
god.
no one's gonna try to knock anyone's head off, right? It's not gonna be Sean
Well,
Taylor in the Pro Bowl, but
I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes you have to, like, if you hold back, you get hurt more than if
that's
you
true.
force. So, but no one's getting near the quarterback. I can tell you that much. And I wonder how much Tyler Van Dyke is going to play. I don't know. We'll see. Or
Yeah, I mean, I would guess we'll see everyone relatively evenly, at least of like the top three guys, right?
yeah,
I would think.
there really are pretty much only three
Only
guys.
three guys, and it's three guys in
Yeah,
walk-ons. So,
yeah.
yeah, nothing I'm like no one I'm like super excited for, except I don't know. There's a couple of guys who I can't help but get excited about right now. And maybe that's a good place to take a quick break and then transition to um, the biggest hype candidates coming out of the first weeks of practice, and how we feel about them. All right. We're gonna mostly talk about freshmen here because, as always, the freshmen kind of get a lot of hype. But we were talking on the phone earlier when you were driving back from practice about the way that Miami coaches are talking, and upperclassmen are talking about a handful of these freshmen and kind of how rare it is. And there's two guys in particular, and then a couple others who were getting some nice buzz too. But the two alignment on both sides of the ball, I don't know where you want to start, but we've got Francis Mauigoa and Rueben Bain, and coaches cannot. I mean, even Mario Cristobal today. What did he say about Rueben Bain? He was like
He
a
said
monster,
I
right?
couldn't.
Like,
He's a complete monster. He said so many good things. I couldn't even put them all down. Complete monster. Throws his body around when he plays football. That he loves that, right? So
yeah.
he
Dude,
gets
do you want to
sore.
start? Let's start with him, Bain. I guess we've talked a lot about Mauigoa.
Yeah,
Yeah, Bain. It like because Mauigoa is going to
he's
start, right? I think we would know, like it's not official, but he's going to be the starting right tackle, and we've kind of known that since the
yes.
spring.
We know.
Um,
I think we know the entire starting offensive line. Yeah.
yes, I think so.
Yeah.
We've known that since the spring.
Yep.
Bain was the one who was. I mean, he was incredible. Obviously, he's an all-time great Miami high school player. Um, sack record, four-time state champion of Miami Central. Comes in with a lot of hype. Top 100 recruit. Max Preps Player of the Year in Florida. And then in the spring, he's awesome. And 2 sacks in the spring game, I think. Multiple sacks in the spring game. I can't remember if it was two or
Three
three.
sacks.
Three
Maybe
sacks in
three.
the spring game. And
Good.
you kept wondering, like, all right, is like, what is he going to do? Because there have been lots of good defense. Nigel Kelly was a really good defensive lineman, and he had a smaller role. He ended up, I think, as the year went on, progressed more and more, and seems like he's going to be a potential
Yeah.
breakout candidate for them this year. But the Bain hype train is at a different level, and it's hard to like doubt it because of I've never, I've watched him play a lot of football in my life, and like, I don't think he's ever played a bad game, like a
Yeah.
single time I've ever watched him. Going back
Yeah.
to his freshman year, I think we had him second team all county as a freshman. Like, he's been incredible since day one. And I'm sure, I don't pay attention to the Pop Warner stuff, but I'm sure he was the best Pop Warner player in the city too.
And probably and everybody David has talked about him. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody.
That's what's unique, right? A lot of guys like the defensive line coach, people ask about these guys, right?
Right.
And like we know the canned answers, right? Like, oh, he looks really good, some good flashes, blah, blah, blah. But it's the
Right.
volume and the effusiveness that is unique with Ruben.
Yeah. I mean, they like, first of all, Mario can't stop talking about him. I mean, all the time. He doesn't say that, well, every now and then he's human or whatever. He just loves this guy. And
Yeah.
all the other players. I mean, the mature older players are like everybody on the line. I mean, it says
Mm-hmm.
this guy is amazing. He's really, really good. He's well above his years. He's very mature. And they said they use the word explosive a lot with him, fast. Um, Mario thinks he's brilliant, super smart. He said today that he's a one-time correction guy. So that he said and coaches, I mean, they love that. He's smart. So if he's doing something wrong and they tell him, Mario said that like clockwork, the next time,
Hmm.
perfect. He just knows what you're teaching him, fixes it right away, and doesn't do it again. Um, Mario also said that he was like he was bench pressing about 250 or 275 pounds, and weighing about 260. This is according to Mario previously. Now
Hmm.
he says he's weighing 280 or 285 and he's benching 400. For actually 400 plus. I've got to change that. I put about 400. I think he said 400 plus.
Uh-huh.
Too late for the print deadline. But anyway, um yeah, super smart. He said that he's got a super bright future, but his present, like right now, is going to be super bright. So and again, everybody, like the offensive linemen talk about him,
Hmm.
defensive linemen talk about him, everybody talks about him. Okay, so Rueben Bain, I'm really excited to see. That's like an old school. That's like an old time Kane, the
Yeah.
really good
Well,
defensive lineman.
it
It
is.
is.
Yeah, I mean, you love your old school Canes. You love those guys who are really passionate about
Yes, we
Gil
do.
Frierson, James Williams, and Cam Kinchins. And Ruben fits a lot of that mold as those same guys. Those are all um, you know, Miami natives, right?
And
Gil,
Miami
Gil,
through and through.
right, yeah, Gil from Coconut Grove, Ruben and Cam from Liberty City,
And
James from
that's
Miami Gardens.
yeah. And David, you know what? I think almost all these got all Ruben, um, Mark Fletcher, Ray Joseph, um, who's the other one? There's one other one. Oh, no, Mauigoa.
Yeah,
Bruce.
yeah. But a lot of the guys are local guys that
Yeah,
are
but
really
those guys
friendly.
are local. I mean, the same way with Ray Joseph. They love Ray
Yeah,
Joseph.
yeah.
Uh, the receiver. I mean,
I
Ray.
also noticed on the roster he's now listed as Ray Joseph.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I
That's
noticed that the
great.
other day.
That's great. Oh, I'll have to. No, I don't think I put Nathaniel anymore. But he also is. I mean, Mario just says, "I love him. He's the best. He's great."
Yeah.
He comes in. We already know the jugs machine and how much he's
Yep.
catching balls and stuff. But he said he's also he's such a Miami guy. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mario,
Uh,
Mario, I started like drinking the Kool-Aid today a little. I did. I started.
I definitely buy it with a lot of these freshmen. I kind of interrupted you. You were about to make a point with Ruben Bain that like he throws his body around and
Yeah,
how that is he checks like the Mario Cristobal boxes. And
yeah,
the
that's
thing
true.
about Ruben is he checks kind of all the boxes of like a guy who's like you don't his what is his seal? Is he going to be a first round pick? I don't know. The measurables are the reason based on his resume and
I,
all that kind of stuff. He's like a 5-star recruit, clear, um, like top player in the country. Um, but everything else, like that's the only knock on him at all is like, is he big enough? Like,
yeah, is he big enough?
is he a tweener, right? Like, is he a defensive tackle? Is he a defensive end? Seems like Miami's going to do him at both. Akeem Mesidor talked last week about how he's taking him under his wing as a guy who also does both. But he is super high effort. Like if you watch him play in high school, it's not like he's like the flashiest defensive end who's like spinning around guys and stuff. He just like his jump was he's really fast off the ball and he effort sacks. Like he had a lot of effort sacks, just like chasing down plays. He's strong, as you mentioned. Like that's one
Yeah,
thing you can't deny
that is
about him.
really strong.
Um, I think he's a little Leonard Taylor's the one guy who everyone says is like freaky strong, but I don't think Ruben's super far off from that. And high IQ, which is the thing with Ray too. Ray had like a 4 whatever in high school, and Ruben was a good student too, as as far as I know at Miami Central. He's a photography major, which is like kind of an off. You don't hear that a lot with high school or with
That's cool.
college athletes. So
Very
like,
cool.
he comes in and like how you do in school doesn't matter that much on the football field, but it gives you a sense of just like the way that he's wired. And he has like passions, he has interests, he's thoughtful. Like he's not just coming in, he's not just taking general studies, planning to be here for 3 years and go to the pros. Like he's has like he's a thoughtful guy who has like, and
Yeah, I love
when you
that.
talk about a guy who
He
like one,
cares.
yeah, when you talk about a guy who's like, what was the phrase Mario used? Like one correction or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like, he's like a smart, thoughtful guy who has like opinions and can process and understand information. And I think he's very similar to Cam Kinchins in that regard. Um, yeah, I think he's going to play a lot. Like, seems like he's going to be, I don't think he's going to start necessarily. Although it wouldn't surprise me if he starts at points this year, but it seems like he's definitely going to be in the rotation. And
Oh, I think he'll end up starting.
you
I
think
think
so?
he'll end up not to the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not the first game, no, but
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, he's like Wesley Bissainthe is another one we haven't mentioned,
I
but
mean,
similar. Like
yeah,
Jude
we
Joseph at Miami Central, like he coaches him up. Like I know Jude pretty well. He was DC there for a long time, so he's always coached with Rueben and Miami Central is, there's a lot of talented teams in South Florida. There's a reason Miami Central has won 4 straight state titles. They're like super disciplined, super well coached, obviously super talented, but I buy all the hype with Rueben. Like I can't get enough of it.
yeah,
And
me
Ray, who I'm not, receivers come in with hype a little bit more because like you always expect for freshman receivers, and how many freshman receivers have we come in and been excited about and then up and down as a freshman. But the thing I like about Ray is a lot of that same high IQ, high work ethic stuff. And I feel like it's something the offense to a degree has been lacking compared to the defense. It feels like the defense
right?
always has a guy like that, right? Whether it's Cam or Jalen Phillips. On offense, Tyler obviously is, um, a great leader. But I think it's a little different when it's not your quarterback, right? When there's someone else who can set the tone and doesn't just have to all be on the quarterback. And a local kid, right? Like, Tyler obviously is from Connecticut. Like he comes in and he's an outsider to some regard. He's become a really important leader for this team. How many times have we heard the Matt Lee story where he comes down to host him basically for his visit? But
Right. No,
I
but
think it matters to have a local kid who all these guys know Ray. All of them have known him since he was 12 years old or whatever. And
right.
there's a certain level of respect that comes to that. And Ray, in the same way that Rueben is not your prototypical defensive lineman, Ray is 5'8". Like he has to work really hard to
I don't
be the
know.
player
He's
he
small.
is. Like, yeah, he's a smaller guy.
But Ray yeah, and Ray is Mario says whatever he does it at 100 miles an hour, and he loves that. So he's got a lot of energy. He's very upbeat, like he's really into it. And according to Mario, he is not going to be outworked at
Yeah.
all. And that the same thing. If he makes a mistake, uh, then he's gonna just get fired up and find a way to do it. I think he reminds me maybe a little bit of a young, in a way, a young Xavier Restrepo,
Mm-hmm.
as far as being like really intense
Yeah.
although Xavier is more serious. I think Ray has a big smile and just charisma, great personality, but still intense and also loves being a Cane. Yeah, these guys are going to be really fun, um, and then the other one who really well, and I don't know at all. I mean, I've met him, I've talked to him on the phone for a long time, but Mark Fletcher,
Mm-hmm.
um, he's another one. Mario called him the running back. Mark Fletcher called him an absolute stud out of Plantation American Heritage. And he's thick, right? He's like big bodied and thick. And Mario said that when things aren't today, said he has this uncanny ability he can get out of trouble. Like if he's in a little bit of a trouble, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
he can get out of it running. That he's, I guess, so he must be pretty agile.
Yeah.
And
I'll say one thing with Mark Fletcher, is I remember he was really, really
Oh,
good. He was really, really good in the state championship.
right.
And I remember going out after that. They played Miami Central in the state championship, and it was down here. So like a lot of local sports writers slash like recruiting ish like guys who like do like evaluations and send them to
Uh-huh.
college coaches around the country. And a couple of guys, like we all went out after the game and got something to eat and a couple drinks. And people after that game, like there were a couple of people who were like, I wasn't totally sold on him. He's just like, he's an old school running back. You don't see him like that anymore. And everyone was sold on him after that game, going up against the best team in the country. He was probably the best offensive player on the field. Um, Andre Fernandez, our colleague, like absolutely thinks he's going to be a superstar. Another covers high schools than me, has watched him a lot. Um, the Sony Michel is probably like the guy he gets compared to a lot, who was a freak coming out of American Heritage 7 years ago now or whatever, maybe even longer. Um, I'm interested to see what he was going to do this season. Obviously, he wasn't here in the spring, but running backs, it's a little bit more of a straightforward position for young guys to get on the field. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of injuries, as we know. So, like, chances
Oh, always.
are, chances are someone's going to get hurt, and there's going to be more playing time available than we expect.
And he blocks very well, right? I that's what Mario said. I don't,
I
we
think
haven't
so. I didn't
seen.
like. I don't remember him blocking a lot in high school, but they also ran the ball like 25 times a game with him, right? So like,
Got it.
he was a workhorse.
Mario said he was very good at blocking, but we'll see. Blocking always becomes important,
Important, especially for freshmen, because a lot of freshmen are not good at it.
right? Or sometimes we realize that they're not very good at it and they don't
Yeah.
want to do it.
Right. Yeah. A lot of freshmen just haven't had
Well,
to do it a lot because
yeah.
they were the best player in their high school team and they were either running routes or running the ball. So,
And I
but
and
that's another, there's like those guys are all coming from good programs, which is,
right.
I think, worth noting.
I I think that out of we really haven't gotten into, but we've talked about him so much. Francis
Yeah. I
Mauigoa,
almost
right?
feel like we don't even like, we just know he's going to start. We know he's going to
We
be
know he's going to start, and we
good.
know it's great, but he's kind of like more of the same ilk as maybe Ruben. Do you think? I mean, as far as like kind of a mature,
Yeah. It seems like it.
although you know, very intensely serious, whatever. But he's a little nerd. He told me on media day that everybody thinks because he's been starting since day one, pretty much since he's been there, that everybody thinks he's just gonna like he has no fear or no. And he's still a freshman.
Yeah.
He's saying he's still going against college players that he hasn't before.
Yeah. He's not going to be perfect. And
Nobody's a little nervous.
yeah.
He's he's a little apprehensive, probably.
Yeah, I mean that Texas A&M defensive line, like when you
Oh
play an
my
SEC
God.
defensive line, it's gonna be,
Right.
it's a good thing they get a couple of games to ease him in, right? Miami of Ohio, which again, like still, like that's a college division 1 defensive line. Like there are gonna be challenges there too. But um, yeah, the one thing I can definitely say about Mario, the way that Mario is recruited, I mean, he's been obviously there's a lot good about Mario Cristobal's recruiting, but um, one thing I love is he like the character stuff can be like a cliche, but um, I don't know. He seems to really value that um, across the board. Like there's not a lot of guys who uh, there's some projecty guys, right? Like and Collins Achiampong, like we haven't seen him yet. He's like a projecty guy, right? 6'8", has not played a lot of football in his life. Um, but I like that Mario's gone for guys who were like really productive in high school, like have a really good resume, and across the board, at least of the ones I know and that we've talked to, they're all like high IQ, high work ethic guys.
I love that. That's super important
It is.
to me. It's super important
Especially when you're kind of like in that rebuilding phase, right? Where
in every way.
if you're Alabama or something, you can take chances on guys like that are,
No,
because if they fail, whatever, you've got 5 other defensive linemen who are ready to step in. With Miami, like they've got a thin margin for error, and I think they've done a really good job of just getting
I
guys who
mean,
I trust.
yeah, and also, David, what was it? I mean, back years ago, the kids used to like in the classroom, if they weren't as good in the classroom, all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you'd find out they were suspended for however many games because they failed a course or they did something. They kept showing up late or they missed classes or whatever. Anything like that, any kind of character issue, intelligence,
Uh-huh.
somebody who's fairly smart, I would think it really, really helps.
Yeah.
And the high character guys, it in every way. They don't get into trouble that we know about. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Marius did a really good job recruiting. That's where I started thinking, maybe this team's going to be better than I think. But then I always think
They're
that.
young, but yeah, I mean, they're like that class is the legit building block, and you
Yes.
can't judge it yet. They have not played a single game, but like it seems like they nailed that class, which is like they've had some highly ranked. The 2018 class kind of famously was very highly ranked, and they did not get a whole lot out of it. I think what Brevin Jordan, Will Mallory, DJ Ivy and Greg Rousseau were like the only guys really drafted out of that class. And only Greg was a first round pick for a class that had, five. Mark Pope was a 5-star. Lorenzo Lingard was a five
Oh my
star.
God.
Um,
Yeah, but
this
I mean,
class. I mean, we can't judge it yet, but it seems like this class, like they've ticked all the boxes so far. Like there's nothing not to like about this class so far.
yeah.
All right. I guess we can wrap things up there. We will both be out at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday morning,
And then
sweating it out with the rest of the Miami fans.
and
Um,
then David goes to law school.
yeah, and then I guess a little news. Put it on Twitter earlier, and Anthony Chang and I talked about it on the Heat podcast for those who listened already. This is my last week as a full-time employee at the Herald. Going to law school at FIU. So if I have any FIU law alumni listening here, you have internships or anything like that, just remember who your favorite Kate's podcaster is next summer. But this podcast isn't going anywhere, we should say. We'll be back next week. We're going to recap that scrimmage. And we are in that every week mode now, from now until however long this season goes.
Will
Yeah, I'm
you
excited.
will you like every podcast just give us a little bit, just a little summary of the week and like what you're learning in law school, please?
Maybe. Are people going to be
No, come
interested in
on.
that?
I am. Yeah.
We'll wait till I take my NIL class, which I'm sure is something offered. I'll be a real expert on the realm. But yeah, we'll be back next week. Until then, you can follow Susan on Twitter at smillerdegnan. You can follow me on Twitter at dbwilson2. If you see us at Hard Rock on Saturday, give us a bottle of water and
Please.
say hi. Until next week, though, thanks as always for listening. We'll talk to you guys later.